Greetings, book lovers everywhere. I'm E-Train, and welcome to E-Train Talks. I'm a literacy advocate, book podcaster, and kindness promoter, and today's interview is a very, very special one, and unlike most I've hosted. Not only am I joined by two amazing people in the book world, huge supporters of the work I do, and just they edit and write some of the best books in the middle grade world. I'm serious. Our talk isn't about their specific stories that they've written and edited, however. It's actually about writing sequels, as the Curious League of Detectives and Thieves sequel came out this summer, and it is amazing. You will all love it. So there, I'm helping you guys sell books. And that will definitely be a topic of conversation. But we're also going to be discussing just general knowledge and the inner workings of sequels. And if you want to go further than that, maybe even series. So, folks, I'm so pleased to welcome the incredible editor from Pixel+Ink and Holiday House, Alison Weiss, who I actually met in New York City earlier this year. And Tom, I'm saying you second because I already talked to you. If you guys haven't checked out our interview, Tom Phillips and I, it's a really good one. He has some great answers, and his books are awesome, and Alison actually edited them, which is really cool. So this is Tom Phillips, and he is the bomb. Thank you so much for being here, everybody listening, and thank you for being here, you guys. For those who don't know, Alison has edited excellent reads like Peach Pit, Curious Detectives and Thieves. I still can't say that without slurring the words. Such a mouthful. Why'd you have to do that to me, Tom?
It wasn't
No,
my
that's
fault.
my fault.
It
It's
was
my
the
fault.
editor.
It's not Tom's fault. That's my fault.
Yeah, it was the publisher that picked the name of the book.
What was the original name?
The original name was no, I can't even think of it. The Grand Adventures of Inspector Todius McGee, but that was a mouthful. So we went for something a little smaller.
Little smaller.
Yeah.
Well, I still like it, and I'll work on saying it. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about sequels, and we have two people behind writing sequels, an editor and a writer, and they might be giving different or exactly the same answers. So we'll have to see. So what do you find is the biggest challenge of writing a sequel of a series? But not just that. The Curious League of Detectives and Thieves is actually Tom's debut. So how do you go about writing a sequel to your debut book?
You have a really great editor. No, that's my answer for everything. You have a really great editor. No, I'm okay. So sequels are really tough, and the reason why sequels are really tough is because you want to catch the nostalgia of the first book, the feelings and themes of the first book, but you don't want to repeat them. But people already know the characters, so you have to kind of raise the stakes a little higher. But so I think you have a lot of pitfalls, and when you make your sequel. I was lucky enough that Allison and I have talked about where we would take the series as a whole, and maybe go past a sequel, maybe go past other things. So we really sat down and said, what is the arc of the characters as a whole story, and where can we take them? Also, Allison gave me a whole bunch of challenges for the second book that I didn't have in the first book that she'd like to see, both just technical writing and storytelling. So we got to add new characters and new concepts. So it made it a lot easier. But yeah.
I think a lot of what Tom's captured are things that I'd point to. Making sure that your new story evolves from the last one, but it's giving you new adventures and raising the stakes, and you don't want a retread of the last book, because then what's the point of reading this new one?
Right.
And I also think that there's, one of the challenges that I see a lot in the sequels that I edit is finding that balance between recapping what happened in the last book to give readers, enough context. So they probably haven't read the book maybe in a year, so they might not remember everything. So you want to give them enough that they can be like, oh yeah, I remember that. But at the same time, you don't want to like overdo it, because then nothing happens in this book and it's slow and boring, and maybe they won't even come back. If there's a third book, they might now come back because it's just not as exciting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Tom, you mentioned that you're supposed to go higher and higher, like raise the stakes. How do you raise the stakes after a flying boat? Like, how are you supposed to do that?
Oh,
I'll tell you,
uh,
you get
I
on
don't
a
want to
train.
I don't want to spoil. I don't want to spoil the
That's
ending
true.
of the
That's
second
true.
book,
That's true.
but I answer that in the second book. Actually, at the very end of the second book, I answer how do you raise the stakes when you've already hit the sky, the limit of the sky, which is actually something Alison and I talked about. And yeah, I think Alison hit it. You put them on a train.
I knew that you did that. I was just, I can't say that in the interview because
No, no.
that's like a spoiler.
Yeah, and it's announced.
Yeah.
Yeah, the third book is announced now, so we can actually talk about it as if it's real. And actually, as of today, I don't know when this interview is going to come out, but literally this morning I turned the third book into Alison, so she has the full.
See, Tom's like ecstatic about this because he's like, "Yay, my job's done," and I'm like,
No, it's
"Yay,
not that
my job starts."
It's not that my job's done. It's that now I have the wisdom of my editor to make the book great. Like when you're writing alone, a lot of times you're like, is this good? Is this terrible? What am I doing? And then when you get it to your editor, then your editor goes, it is terrible, but we're gonna fix it, and then it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, I've read the first 6 chapters. I read and edited the first 6 chapters, and they're actually amazing. So Tom has nothing to worry about.
Look at you, Tom.
Yeah, which is a good compliment because she doesn't like to give out compliments.
Nope.
And now she's doing it on a recording.
Yeah. This is true. Now it's forever. I
Yeah,
have it on
it's
recording.
forever. There's no escape.
It's a deep fake.
I'm gonna make that my ringtone actually.
Yeah, Tom's just gonna make that his ringtone, like have that as his like background on his computer, just like a speech bubble coming out saying like it's actually amazing.
The first 6 chapters, we'll see where it
Yeah.
goes after that. No, yeah, but that's really actually a really big deal about sequels too, you know, that you're writing also. I mean, as a debut author, you're sort of guessing, and with the sequel you have a lot more information. How the publishing world works, you know. Alison taught me a lot about how my sentence structure is, and like dialogue tags is a big talk we have a lot. So I think that you get better. So I think sort of the book kind of gets better as well because your writing gets better, which is really nice. That's sort of one of the easiest parts of it, of a sequel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, my next question for you is, oh wait, I guess you kind of already answered it in the last question. How could you do that to me, Tom? You're so mean. So,
Right.
when writing or plotting the Curious League of Detectives and Thieves, did both of you envision what started as Egypt's Fire to become a full-fledged series? Did you have it all mapped out, or are you kind of going book by book by book by book?
Can I answer that, or do you want to answer that? You go first.
I'll answer it. So Pixel+Ink only does series.
Oh, wow.
So when I acquired it, I already knew it was a series. And I knew that Tom had plans for future books. And I remember on our first call, he walked me through his idea for every single future book. And I maybe wanted to throttle him a little because I was like, we're not doing that number of books. And things, details, events, the number of books will change as the series unfolds, because you learn things about your characters. You realize you don't need this journey. You want to move something up. You want to move something back. You get better ideas. But knowing where he wanted to go, and knowing the end game, and I do, gave me supreme confidence that he could handle writing this as a series and that it was going to be epically good.
Supreme confidence.
Supreme confidence.
It's funny because I think that the delusions of grandeur of a writer, we all have it. Like I think that every writer goes, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and we're gonna have t-shirts, and we're gonna have teddy bears, and we're gonna have theme parks, and like have this whole plan of where the thing is gonna go. And I think it's smart for a writer to do that, to dream big, because then your imagination then is big, and then your stories are fleshed out, and they because it's been in your head, all of that. But it also helps with the series to know that things will change. I originally had I think I had like 12 plot lines or something, somewhere around there, like 12 books, like the Lemony Snicket books. I looked at Lemony Snicket and I was like, oh, there's 13 books, so I should do 12 books, and they should each be 1 month, and it should be January's Jewels. And I had this whole plan for each month,
Oh, that's
and it was a
cool.
brilliant marketing thing. And then we wrote the book, and I was like, now January is done, and I got to February, it's like, oh, now everything is thrown out and we're starting over, because as you write, things change. And we added characters in the second book that now are really big plots. So the second book, in my grand scheme, was on a cruise ship in the sky. It was always on a cruise ship in the sky, but then we added these characters, so then the second book, or the third book, was completely different than what I ever come up with. And now if we go to 4 and 5 and onward, it's the trajectory, the map has changed, but we still have all those little pieces and thoughts and stuff we did before that we can build upon, so we can grab from here and there and put it together. And it's been
Yeah.
really cool.
That does sound really cool. And well, I wish that there were going to be 12 books in the Curious League series, but 12 is a lot. So,
You know what, E-Train? If you want 12 books, we just need to get your followers to buy and buy and buy and buy the books as they come out, because
No, we're gonna
we could keep going.
we don't have a number set. We're going to keep writing until the publisher says we're not selling books anymore, or until we get to a point where we're like, okay, at this point John would be a 30-year-old man. It
No, that's
is
not going to happen, because
it's
he's not
scientifically
getting older.
no, it's
yeah, he's Bart Simpson.
scientifically impossible for him to go on this many adventures and not age. So that's sort of where the cutoff is when we get to 365, it's just impossible. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but this I'm a big believer too in storytelling, that there will be an end. Like, we can't, you want to end a series, you want to make sure that you're going somewhere, and that end period and that very first book are connected, so the
You
fans
also
feel.
don't want to be trying to go on and on and on to the point where the ideas aren't fresh anymore, and it feels like you're straining,
Yeah,
because that dilutes what made the series so good in the first place.
yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Those are some great answers. And my next question for you is about tips. We all love getting tips from authors, but now we have an editor here. So maybe there's some aspiring editors out there. I know I'm an aspiring editor and author. So I guess you guys are going to have to persuade me to go to which side you want. What are some tips you have for fellow authors or editors who are either working on a sequel or maybe kind of just plotting a sequel, not even sure if they're going to be adding a sequel to their first book or to a series?
You go first, Tom.
Okay. If you're gonna do a sequel, so here's the thing. We have this thing in the writing world. I'm gonna take a step back a little bit. The writing world, where everybody goes with series possibility, but the truth is that any story has a series possibility. So don't say that when you're pitching your book, because it means nothing. You're wasting words in your query letter. Every series, if it sells good enough, the publisher is going to want it to be any book. The publisher is going to want a second one. But with that said, it's the first thing I would say is think about your second book and say why. Why is it important? What more story do I have to tell? It's not just a money grab. Like, what is this? So you really have to think about why it needs to be told. The story needs to continue, and then how to continue that story to start.
So I'm going to disagree with Tom a little bit here. I don't think that every story has series potential. I think some books are standalones, and they're written as standalones, and they should be standalones, and that's fine. I do agree that you shouldn't be doing a sequel just to do a sequel. So a lot of the times when I see series pitches, it becomes pretty evident that this was maybe started as one epically long story. And the writer decided, oh, this is too long. This is not publishable for um, these modes. So I'll just chop it up into a few books. Um, and the problem with that is that there are different issues that can arise with that. So you either um, get these big cliffhangers, which just annoy people. Or you can get what I call bridge books, where you are trying to get from point A to point B, but everything in the middle is just kind of stuff happens and it's not actually all that compelling. So the trick that I learned to a series is that every book, even if there is a broader plan, a broader arc, um, there are bigger questions that are spanning the course of the series. Every book in the series needs to be able to have kind of some sense of closure. It needs to kind of be able to stand on its own. And that doesn't mean that you can't have threads that you would, pull on to see what would happen next. But you want something to feel wrapped up and feel final. You want it to be a satisfying chunk when you close that back cover.
Yeah, I feel I'm gonna jump on that too. Yeah, I feel like so the first Curious League book, if there was never any other book after that, even though we went in knowing the publisher bought two books, there will be a sequel. Um, I wanted to end it as if there were no other books, it was a full, complete story. So when John and Todius go off to their next adventure, you could go imagine it in your own head, but you didn't feel like, well, what happened? None of these questions were answered. Why are we doing this? And I feel the same way with the second book. The second book needs to start off what you have to think about it as what if this first book never existed? And now I'm writing this new book and I'm writing this story. And can that sequel be a book and stand on its own without the previous book in front of it, which is a big deal. I mean, you get the first book, so you have a little bit of a play with that, but just the concept of when you start to write and plot it, you go, let's say there wasn't this first book. What do I? And I have these characters, and I've dropped my audience in the world, and the characters already know each other, and they're already established family. Where do we go from there?
Yeah, those are both great points. I'm actually gonna I'm trying to keep these tips in my back pocket for when I start writing or editing, one day.
If
And
only you had it recorded where you could go back and watch it.
if only, if only. And now it's time for a random question interlude, because some people may not be writing sequels right now. So we want to learn more about you. So I'm gonna ask some random, fast-paced, short answer questions, and maybe we'll learn a little bit more about each of you. So let's start off with the good old question: does pineapple belong on pizza?
Absolutely not.
Oh, totally, it does.
Ooh, we got a little controversy here. Give us your points. Why should pineapple belong or not belong on pizza?
Because anything that makes you happy belongs on a pizza that makes you happy, and I shouldn't judge what other people eat on their pizza because I don't want to take away your happiness.
Okay, I think it's probably valid. I'm just not a big fan of pineapple,
Okay.
but if you like pineapple on your pizza, fine.
Are you allergic to pineapple?
No, I just don't really like it.
Yeah, because you should never eat anything that is that you're allergic to.
Yeah. That's a good call. Tom is a doctor.
That's
Just
that's
like
my
Tom.
medical advice.
Yeah.
I think Lemony Snicket said it the best, where he said, "You should never stick something in your mouth you're allergic to, especially if it's cats."
Yeah. Wise words. Speaking of cats, do you guys are you cat or dog? Or I guess because we do have a monkey in the cover, are you a monkey person?
Well, we know that Tom is dog person
And a monkey person. I got a monkey
and a
tattoo
monkey
and a dog
person.
tattoo. There.
Um, I am firmly in Camp Cat. Um,
I don't hate cats. I don't think you should have to choose. I just happen to have a dog, and my wife is allergic to cats, so we can't have them.
Would you
And
want a cat though if you could?
she had one, yeah, actually before we met, but she just found out she was allergic to. She found out she was allergic to cats, so we could never get another one. But yeah, yeah, I like cats. You know, I'd love to have a monkey, but I'm not allowed to own a
It's
monkey.
unfair. Can't believe they did that to you.
Yeah, well, Chad gets jealous, so there's no monkeys.
Yeah.
Cat is staring at you.
That's because I said I would like to own a monkey, and now he's mad.
All right. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
I'm fond of black cherry because of my childhood, but
Okay.
you know, ice cream, all ice
It's
cream's
ice
good, right?
cream.
Yeah.
Um, God. When I was a kid, I would have said Cherry Garcia. Um, but I really love Ben and Jerry's makes an ice cream called Thick Mint, and it's like Thin Mints in ice cream form,
Oh, cool.
and it's really delicious. So I'm gonna call that as my favorite.
I'm a good old vanilla person. I'm not as I guess artistic impressionist when it comes to ice cream. I'm just vanilla. All right, let's get back to serious mode. Just wanted to get some interesting conversations going on. And now those are gonna take us into some more interesting and thought-provoking questions. So, what do you think the most important feature of a sequel should be? Or I guess I want you guys to have confidence. So, what do you think it is?
Did you write this down? You start, and then I'll.
Um,
Just think about it. Just think about it.
so I think that your sequels should be deepening our understanding of characters and expanding um the view of the world so that we're getting a broader window, or maybe a different pocket of it.
Yeah. The most important part of a sequel for me is to yeah, to expand the horizon, to build the world. I think is a really good answer. I don't know. There's so it's that's such a very thought provoking question that I have no answer for. Yeah, you did good. That you know, what's the most important part of a sequel? That it sells 1 million books. No, just
The
kidding.
most the most important part of a sequel is that it makes readers crave the next book.
Hmm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And plus, you might not necessarily be craving the next book if it's the first book, because you don't know if there's going to be another one. And then after the sequel, and then there's a cliffhanger, you're gonna just be wanting more and more. That's kind of like how there's 5 series of Percy Jackson and Rick Riordan is just adding another one to the first one. It's really confusing how it works. Yeah. So I stumped you, Tom. I finally stumped an author with my truly thought-provoking, intelligent, very cool questions.
It
This
was.
is why E-Train's going to be an editor.
You can be both.
You can be both.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would be an author and an editor though, because I would like anything that I write, I would just say no, that's bad, because I have that editor eye, like, and then the author eye right there. I don't know how that would mix.
You would turn it off. Lots of people manage to do it. Not
It's like a
me,
button.
but lots of people manage to do it.
You. Well, I mean, the thing about writing is that writing is telling a story, and then editing is just rewriting the story so it makes sense. So the writing part is me telling the story to myself. The editing part is me now telling the story to everybody else.
Oh,
So
okay, that's cool.
you think about it that way, you know, that you want to tell the story and you're telling the story out loud to yourself, sort of, and then you go back there and go, does this make sense? I need to change the sentence, and you know,
Tom is
because
being very wise today. First, he told us not to eat foods we're allergic to, which is really good medical advice. And now, he's giving us some writing advice. He's smart in all facets of life.
No, just those two.
Just us. Yeah. All right, the next question for you is, were there any additions to the plot or any bits of character development that you molded into the sequel that you had hoped to write into book 1, or are there is there anything that you wish you would have added to books 1 and 2 after selling them and after them being out in the world?
Uh
Or are you just like, it's perfect. Nothing needs to be.
no, I think you always go back and go, I would have should have done that. I should have said this. I think part of the fun of having a series is I get to read the first book and the second book and see plot holes that I didn't realize I had done, and then fix them in the third book.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm like, I bring something in and they're like, ooh, it's so creative. He had planned it the whole time, and secretly I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that got through all the edits. Uh, but no,
Come on, Allison. How'd you let that get through?
I, I will say that the second book, Allison doesn't. That was a total joke to the world.
Oh,
Allison,
okay, okay. I know.
let me tell you about
I maybe
Allison
do,
Weiss for a
but
second. Allison is an incredible editor because not only does she really care about the story and the structure and everything and all the grammar and all of that, but she also really has a great mind in storytelling. So it's like working with a very skilled writer. I've never gotten a note from Allison that I was like, no, she doesn't get this book and she is a dumb publisher and I am the artist. I'm always like, oh man, why didn't I think of that? So she's incredible. Uh I will say that the publisher did do something in my second book that I was trying to avoid altogether, and that was they made me give John friends that were his own age. I had in the first book, John doesn't have friends. All of his friends are all the other characters are adults. He's the only kid in a kid book, and I liked that very much so. And then Allison said no, he needs to have kids his own age. And then I made the kids. We had long conversations of who they are and why and how they worked. And now they're Kana and Wimbley are probably my two favorite characters, my next other than Todius and John, but the next two favorite characters. Like I can't see them. I can't believe the series never had them in the first place. So if I could have gone back and introduced them in the first book, I think now I would have.
Yeah.
But I think they fit perfectly in the second book, so it worked out really well.
And sorry for laughing at that point. It just really caught me off guard. Like, you didn't want him to have friends. That seems so mean, but like it makes sense because it's
Well,
kind of like he was living in the roof of a museum for like a
yes,
ton of his
the
life.
first book was about John finding himself and figuring
True.
out just that he was alive and he deserved to be happy. In the
Yeah.
second book, he learns how to have friends, which is sort of cool, and that's something that I did not plan when I first started the series. I didn't even think about it. Um, it was gonna be Todius and John, and they were a crime fighting duo, and they were gonna travel the world solving crimes. And then Allison really brought that concept of found family and uh, how hard it is at that age range, to find friends and navigate that. And then with you guys now with social media and what this pressure to be famous all the time, like how does that work with friends? Because when I was your age, I grew up in a town of 400 people, and there were three guys that like comic books, and I was the fourth one, and we've been friends for 40 years. Like they're still my best friends. I talk to them every day, but how would that worked in the TikTok era? So it's really kind of cool, and I was
Yeah.
really glad that she challenged me to put those characters in, because I think they really bring something to the series that I never thought of before.
Yeah, and I thought it added a lot of humor to it as well. John trying to just understand social media and all that. And of course, you couldn't say TikTok specifically in the book, so you had to improvise a little bit. Um,
Yep,
and I
we
like
did.
what you did.
Thanks. We made up our own TikTok. We called it Buzz Buzz.
buzz buzz.
Buzz
Uh,
buzz.
my nephew, who is 12, he was like, the Hive is such a sick name for a
Oh
YouTube
right, yeah.
channel, and I was
See,
all,
like, I feel like this is actually going to become a thing at some point.
Buzz Buzz, maybe.
Yeah.
You copyright it.
Um,
Make your own app. I mean, Twitter's going down, so people just go all over the place.
I've been yeah, it's a whole other conversation. I'm gonna keep it to the books. Keep it to the books, kid.
My bad.
I will say that there's this thing in middle grade books, and I blame J.K. Rowling for it, but I call it the trifecta, where you got your main kid and he's got two friends, and the main person there's like three different elements. So there's the heart, the brains, and the strength, which make up a character. Going to be smartest, strongest, and most compassionate. And a lot of times in books, it's two boys and a girl, and the main character is the strength. They're the strong one that is, has the courage. And then the boy is the funny one, like the second boy is like, he's the comic relief, and we call that the heart character, the glue that keeps them together. And then the girl is usually smarter than the two boys. We have Harry, Ron, and
Yeah.
Hermione. And we wanted to play with those themes a little bit. And the problem with girls being the heart character is a lot of times they become a love interest, and I didn't want that. I wanted them just to be buddies.
It's so
So
hard to do that nowadays, especially in books and with how life is going for middle schoolers. Because like you can see in like sixth grade, there's relationships and people are thinking about girlfriend boyfriend. So like,
yeah, well,
I think
I play a little bit with that theme in the third book, a little bit of
oh
the
cool.
start, the beginning of I have feelings for someone
Ooh.
situation. But the second book, I really stuck to I didn't want it to be I didn't want it to be a love interest. I didn't want the girl character to be a love interest. And then so we decided to make her the because John is the brain. He's the detective. He's already the brain. He's the smartest one of them. So I decided to make Kana the strength and Wembley the heart. But I didn't want Wembley just to be a comic relief. I wanted him to really be someone who loved unconditionally and really felt deeply. And I wanted Kana to be strong, but then I thought, how cool would it be if Kana was actually strong? So she actually is a strong girl, like a circus that lifts the weights and stuff over their heads. So we played with those, and that really, really helped form those characters and really bring John the things he was missing with his friends, so that we could have this bond between the three of them. So
That's a great answer. And what both of you did with the Curiously Detectives and Thieves, how you tie, I guess John and Toadies is kind of old-fashioned brains in a sense, or not necessarily old-fashioned, but kind of not used to social media, like, and kind of you had them clash with newer age, like the new age social media, and also them being on a flying boat at the same time. I mean, you had a lot of elements that I don't know how any other author editor duo would tie it all into one epic story. Like that could definitely be something that some people had to write across 2 or 3 books, and you got it all done in one story that is beloved by
I,
me.
I think that's just Tom. I think that he is just kind of a master at intricate plotting. In a way that I have never seen. And especially in the realm of mysteries, um, writing there are a lot of middle grade mysteries out there, but writing a truly good, surprising one where you don't see the end coming, I think is hard.
Yeah,
And I think it's hard because a lot of writers are thinking about the parameters of what a kid can experience. And not that a smaller setting or a school setting isn't replete with possibilities, but it's limited in where you can go and still keep that content fresh. And what I think Tom does so well is he, besides just being a master mystery plotter, he takes the characters kind of out of that those bounds to give a lot more possibility, which then enables him to take things in really extraordinary ways. But then he layers so much in that you would never expect, and then you end up with these epically complex. But every single detail that you think that's just irrelevant comes back to be enormously significant. Um, So he's just really great.
I have two theories on that. The first one is that every word should matter because it costs a lot. And this is, and Allison will love me for saying this out loud, but it costs the publisher per page, right? Paper is not cheap. So we only have so many pages. We only have so many words. And we have this huge pressure right now to have less than 400 pages in a mid-grade book. A lot of the librarians, a lot of the teachers, a lot of people are like, "Hey, you got to make smaller books. The kids need
Even shorter than that.
I disagree with them, but they're teachers and librarians, and they know more about it than I do. So, but so you only have so much. So every word needs to matter. The other thing is that, so two things. One, I don't want to talk down to kids. I think you're smart. I think you can get it. I think you can understand complex, um, plot lines because you work with every day with computers and things and stuff that are complex and logical thinking. You know, you have many layers to work with in your technology and your technological advanced um, uh, education. So I think that we can get away with doing more complex. That doesn't mean complex words. That doesn't mean so much, maturity wise, like content for love and relationships and social agendas and things like that. I try to stay away from. But I think complex storylines you can absolutely handle. So I think it's more fun to do that. I also felt like, and I love the mysteries. I don't want to knock any other writer that's doing it because some of them do it brilliantly. With the mysteries where kid is in school and the mysteries contained in their school life and in their normal town that they live in. But I also want my readers to be able to get out of their everyday life. You know, I think if the pandemic taught us anything, that we need to teach our kids to dream and imagine, and maybe the impossible is okay. Not everything has to be in the realm of possibility. Sometimes we can have flying ships, sometimes we can have talking monkeys, and just let you be able to enjoy the book you're reading and get away from the world and escape into something. You have enough social pressures on you that I don't need to add to that, and still have the themes and talk about the things that we want to talk about, like social media or how to make a friend or what to do when you start to have feelings for your best friend and those kind of things that you'll be going through naturally right now in your age range, but still talking monkeys and make it fun and enjoyable. So it's sort of my goal a little bit. Um, Also, the people I don't think I could do the town school mystery and pull it off. um, there's already authors that are doing it so well that I don't want to try to do something that somebody else is already accomplishing. So I want to kind of branch out a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's another awesome answer from both of you. And I don't know how you I don't know how you keep doing it. I mean, maybe your notes, maybe you just have that natural knowledge and thinking on the spot. So,
It's not like either one of us were born with this ability to tell stories. We both have dedicated many hours and lots of time to craft our craft, and I think that's a
true.
huge deal. That things don't happen overnight. We didn't.
Mhm.
You can't make a viral video, become super famous, and then you're the best storyteller in the world. In fact, there's more pressure that when you go viral and you start to sell and people start to notice you to then really hone your craft. So I think it's a valuable lesson to hear that Allison is brilliant, but she's been working at it for years. And that even though I was a debut author, I had been writing forever and television and film and stuff too. So it wasn't, you know, it's all about learning your craft and ingesting other people's stories and listening to other people and figuring out what your weaknesses are. I just talked to this other author the other day, and I said, "Okay, what is the worst part of your writing?" And they were like, "What?" I said, What's the thing you hate the most? What's the hardest thing that you struggle with?" And they're like, I don't know. Like, I guess describing things." And I said, "Great,
Good,
that's
do
what's
that.
missing." I was like, "Great, that's the thing that's missing in your book. Then that's the thing, So like, think of your weaknesses and build on those weaknesses. Don't be like, he's a master plotter, so his books are going to be perfect. I'm like, great, I'm really good at plotting, but now I got to really work on dialogue tags. I got to really work on description. I got to really work on voice or other things because we all have challenges. Um, which I'm always learning, always working, because rule. I'm gonna get it wrong. My rules. Rule 25 is the day you stop learning is the day you stop living, and I truly believe that.
And both writing and editing, they're trades. And so that means that you learn by doing, and you will keep getting better the more you do the work.
Mhm.
So, you know, I've been editing for a really long time, but a lot of what I have learned, the nuggets that I hammer my authors with, and Tom knows because he's gotten editorial letters full of my nuggets. They're patterns that I've seen over time, and um they're the tricks that I offer people are things that I've figured out, that I've read other people suggest for different problem areas, that other editors have suggested, that is really sound advice, and I'm like, and I hear it and I say, oh, that's a really great way to explain how to approach this problem that I can't figure out how to teach somebody how to do. Every book that you write, you will discover something new. You will level up in some way. It's in some ways it's kind of constantly feeding that knowledge to learn. That you're constantly hungry for wanting to kind of take something apart and figure out how to put it back together. And it that doesn't mean it's easy, but the process of it makes you stronger for having done it.
Definitely. I love that. I love that answer. So, everybody, give a round of applause for these two phenomenal, inspirational, just amazing people who took time out of their day to talk with us on E-Train Talks. So, I, for one, cannot wait to see where the Curious League of Detectives and Thieves series goes. And I also cannot wait to see what you guys listening and watching will write. Because hopefully this talk gave you the knowledge, the insight needed for you to continue or start your own writing journey. Writing books that have been in your mind and in your heart for a long time, but you haven't had the tools yet to truly get out of you onto the page. So if you're interested in learning more about the work that these two spectacular people do, be sure to check out their social media accounts. You can find them on Instagram and Twitter. And read the Curious League of Detectives and Thieves series. And order them or as well as get them at your local library. But maybe get them at your local library, and if you love it, then order it, because then we can have more Curious League books potentially. And we all want that in the book world. Because the world's a little bit brighter when John Borhog and Todius McGee are still going on missions and changing the world and going in flying boats and living in museum roofs. So, also check out other novels edited by Alison. She's edited a lot throughout Pixel+Ink, and I cannot wait to see how far she goes in the editing world. And I can guarantee that you're gonna walk away learning something new, and with a new favorite book. Whether you read The Curious League or any books edited by Alison, you'll discover new traits. Trades and traits. That sounds good together. Good job. Pat on the back. So, stay safe, keep reading, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.